Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician, and this is Holomancer.
Also welcome the daring reporter Dora.
We are infinitely grateful that we have another opportunity to see you all again.
Hearthstone is killing itself, and it's not clickbait. This fact was first announced 5 years ago in a report by the analytical company Superdata.
We live in the games as a service era. This business model allows developers to monetize video games after their release in the long run. The main indicator of the success of games as a service is not popularity, fan loyalty or critical acclaim, but profit, only profit. If profits increase, then other factors are almost irrelevant. Players' money works like a healing elixir that allows games to prolong life as well as to receive excess profits for investors and auctioneers. Even if the developers have a popular franchise and manage to create addictive gameplay, subsequent support for the game is like a long-distance race. It is extremely difficult to create regular interesting content and encourage players to keep spending money. Moreover, the subsequent support of the project requires huge investments. Under these conditions, most gameplay innovations should be created in terms of profitability, which means earning player loyalty is also a challenge. Players will demand more and more content over time. It will be harder to surprise them with each new expansion. Subsequently, even a small gameplay mistake can lead to a significant decrease in interest, resulting in a loss of profit.
Today, we'll use earnings data to try to determine which Blizzard decisions led to the biggest financial failures in the game's history. Unfortunately, Blizzard carefully hides the data on the financial profit of their projects. We were forced to collect information bit by bit from different sources about the income of the game in different periods. Please pay attention, this video was not created to incite hatred towards Blizzard and the development team. Over the past 8 years, they have done a great job to make Hearthstone a real phenomenon like no other. Blizzard has implemented a lot more positive things into the game than negative ones. Using Blizzard as an example, we just want to analyze the approach that is typical for most game studios.
Hearthstone was released in March 2014. The game has literally revolutionized the digital collectible card game industry.
By the end of the year, the game had 20 million registered accounts. According to a Superdata report, Hearthstone made $173 million this year across all platforms. It was a great start. How did Hearthstone manage to make such a profit? Packs were the main source of income. In addition to the huge classic set, this year the first big expansion came out in one adventure. Team 5 was ready to generate regular content for the healthy functioning of the game.
Blizzard's marketers have done a brilliant job of choosing the best monetization method and the most efficient pricing approach. Buying packs has been and remains very expensive, but at the same time affordable for most players. Purchasing a small number of packs has never given players a significant advantage, which forced them to spend more money. But if Blizzard had offered more loyal pricing for the packs, then they would have received significantly less profit. At the same time, the crafting system was fairly fair. Players could always get any card for free.
A feature of 2015 was the release of Hearthstone for smartphones. The developers introduced the Tavern Brawls mode as well as monthly ranking rewards. The number of new players has doubled. So how much money has Blizzard made?
The answer to this question will surprise you. According to Superdata, for the year, the game's total revenue was only $240 million across all platforms. According to AppMagic, Hearthstone has earned over $100 million on mobile platforms. Agree, the result was not so impressive, despite the fact that the game was adapted for the fastest growing platform. Hearthstone failed to reach its full financial potential. So what is the problem? This year, players received 2 adventures that could be obtained completely free of charge, as well as just 1 set of packs. In other words, the game turned out to be too cheap for most Hearthstone fans, and even an increase in the audience did not help Blizzard significantly increase its profits. From a financial point of view, the game was not as effective as it could have been.
The only full-fledged expansion this year was the Grand Tournament, which turned out to be rather unimpressive. Perhaps this also became a factor that prevented the increase in profits. Players don't want well-balanced cards, they want cards that change the game and do crazy things.
2016 was the best year in Hearthstone history. We saw a division of the main game format into Standard and Wild. Although not all players accepted this initiative positively. Rotating meant that some of your old cards became useless in Standard, which has become the main way to play.
Of course, from the point of view of game design, this was a very important decision, but the plans of the developers caught the players by surprise. Team 5 made no attempt to communicate with the community to explain the full benefits of this approach. Unfortunately, this was the only innovation of the year. The first expansion, Whispers of the Old Gods, was a phenomenal success. According to SuperData, Hearthstone was earning between $25 million and $45 million a month. At the end of the year, Blizzard managed to get an additional 10 million players and earn almost $400 million. More than $180 million was earned on mobile platforms. Hearthstone was the premier digital card game that had no serious competitors.
Analysts' forecasts for 2017 were extremely optimistic. The total projected revenue from digital card games was to be increased to $1.4 billion. And Hearthstone should have gotten the most of that pie. Such a rapidly growing profit did not motivate Blizzard to significantly modernize the game with new things. The consequences of this approach were not long in coming. It all started after the release of Meat Street of Gadgets and, in early 2017, Hearthstone became the Shaman Stone.
Players in the Legend ranks of Ladder have encountered 60% Shaman decks during January season.
In its turn, Patches the Pirate became the most uncontrollable card. It was one of the biggest crises in the metagame. The outdated approach to card balancing made matters worse. Players lost interest in card collecting and gameplay, which negatively impacted first quarter earnings.
But that's not all. Expecting a significant increase in the market for digital card games, Blizzard decided to double its profits. Instead of alternating between adventures and expansions, they introduced 3 big expansions that significantly increased the cost of the game. A large number of important classic cards were sent to the Hall of Fame, making them unavailable in Standard. These changes, once again, were ambiguously perceived by many players.
Look at the image with our old analytics. The system of alternating adventures and expansions allowed players to spend less money. To get the full collection, a premium player had to spend from $200 in 2015 to $355 in 2016, provided that a player completes daily quests. Following a change in approach, the cost of a complete collection has been increased to nearly $500 a year. In return, packs received protection from duplicate legendary cards, and players received assurances that adventures would become regular and completely free. It's worth noting that 3 expansions per year is a justified approach in terms of gameplay development. But Blizzard did not seek to proportionally increase the balance of free resources. Since 2017, popular members of the community have increasingly begun to argue that the game has become too expensive. Blizzard's main goal was to increase income. The highlight of this year was the release of Knights of the Frozen Throne. This expansion was the most commercially successful and once again increased the audience of the game. According to Sensor Tower, in just 10 days, Hearthstone managed to earn $10 million on mobile platforms alone. The financial success of this expansion leaves no doubt that we will definitely see the return of Death Knights as a new set or even class. Judge for yourself. The theme of the Old Gods was also a commercial success, and we have already seen their return in the Dark Moon Fair expansion.
Despite the success of Knights of the Frozen Throne over the year, profits declined. This data is confirmed by both Sensor Tower and SuperData sources. Thus, Blizzard made the game more expensive, sold the most successful set in its history, at the same time expanded the game's audience and subsequently made less money. Something definitely went wrong. It seems that a chain of ambiguous decisions, an increase in the cost of the game, the lack of fundamental innovations and periodic crises in the metagame led to the launch of irreversible processes. Most likely, the players began to lose interest in Hearthstone and loyalty to Blizzard. Based on the financial results, we can assume that the players began to leave the game.
In 2018, Blizzard finally thought about the new player experience. They created a separate ranking system that had additional rewards. The main innovation of the year was supposed to be the release of the tournament mode, which was later cancelled for unknown reasons. Another year without significant changes.
The poor implementation of even and odd mechanics has done a lot of damage to the metagame. But the main failure of the year was the release of Rostakon's Rumble, which had too little impact on the meta and directly affected next year's revenue. Blizzard even sent out a huge survey to players. They were definitely not happy with the results. Despite this, by expanding Hearthstone's audience by 30 million players, Blizzard managed to slightly increase revenue on mobile platforms compared to last year. Unfortunately, we could not find information about the total profit of the company. But, in our opinion, the developers failed to radically change the situation. They only masked the crisis with a very successful marketing solution.
We know for sure that the new approach to pre-orders has greatly increased revenue this year. Bundles have become more diverse and attractive with new bonuses in the form of additional packs, legendary cards and hero portraits. An important fact is that the developers have not changed their approach to pricing pre-orders for 4 years. Something definitely forced them to change their strategy.
Let's move on to my favorite year for Hearthstone, which unfortunately was a disaster. In 2019 adventures have gone from free to paid, and one of them has even become a must-buy. This was a cover manipulation, to force players to spend more resources. But this led to extremely negative consequences.
After the release of Saviors of Uldum, players began to leave the game. They had fewer resources and couldn't access the extremely expensive Highlander decks. The icing on the cake was the biggest reputational scandal in Hearthstone history. Blizzard punished esports player Blitzchung for voicing his support of the Hong Kong protests during an official streaming of the Grandmaster event. The community has declared a boycott of Blizzard. By the way, after that, Blizzard had an attack of generosity, and they tried to regain the loyalty of the players with extremely generous gifts. The expansion phase of Saviors of Uldum has been one of the most generous. But that didn't help Blizzard keep its profits. According to the results of the year, revenues on the mobile platform almost halved. Hearthstone was killing itself. The Blitzchung scandal was just an excuse to release the players' long-growing dissatisfaction.
Cyclical problems in the meta and prolonged lack of balance. Loss of the competitive component due to the growth of random mechanics. Lack of dialogue with players and complete disregard for the needs of core audiences. Lack of significant innovations and a cooperative component. A regular increase in the cost of the collection and the absence of special conditions for the comeback of players who took a break from the game. Unfavorable conditions for new players and colossal competition with other mobile games. Also, the loss of Blizzard's reputation as a game developer. All these reasons led to disastrous consequences. Having profits is the worst thing that could happen to a company.
Don't get us wrong, Hearthstone was still the best in the genre, but the old flaws and problems were snowballing. Of course, the game was still profitable. The final decline of the game could occur in a few years, provided there were no significant innovations.
But Blizzard was very lucky, as they had an unexpected surprise in store that slowed this process down. But that's a completely different story. By the way, we have a large amount of data that could be a continuation of this video. If you're curious about Hearthstone's current earnings, as well as the future direction of the game, please let us know in the comments or just click the like button below this video.
Also subscribe to the channel if you are not already a subscriber. Your activity will be a signal to us that this topic is important.
We can't wait to hear your opinion. What caused the loss of interest in Hearthstone in your opinion?
What advice would you give Blizzard to bring back as many old players as possible or attract a new audience? Share your opinion in the comments and also take part in polls on our community tab. We would like to express our huge gratitude to our patrons.
Dear friends, your support is incredibly important to us. Thanks to each of you for being with us today.
We hope to be able to get in touch in the future.
Take care of yourself.
And good luck.
Job's done.
So many dark powers, so little time.
Tikan, all you've told me is true. You are an instrumental part of our master plan.
Some tombs are not meant to be disturbed.